Hey, Kevin here, top 100 financial advisor, two-time author, one-time bestseller, and we're here to talk about the stock market. This week was terrible. It was the worst week we've had since March, and we know how bad March was. S&P 500 was down about 5.6%, which is very significant for a single week. But we do have some data that can help us navigate what may occur in the next week. We know we are just 4 days from the election. There's a lot of speculation about if this person gets in, then what happens, and all types of things that could spiral out of that for an investor. So I want to give you 3 stats and scenarios of who you might want to root for if your only concern is the market. So I'm only limiting this to the market only. So these are scenarios you might want to root for, and there's actually some very good news in either scenario. But this data goes all the way back to 1950, which gives us a very good case analysis, not just of what happened last year, but what happened over the past like 70 years. So give me 1 second. I'm going to pull this up so I can look at it and let y'all know this data is from USA Today. All right, going all the way back to 1950. The most important thing isn't actually who the president is. That's something we've kind of talked about a bit because we know that the tax code and the other things that presidents tend to affect come out of Congress, and that is the most important thing. In this scenario, the best performer is a split Congress. So when you have, like we have today, a Democratic House and a Republican Senate, either or, doesn't matter who, but as long as it is split, the market on average has shown that it goes up 17.2%. That is the highest out of a straight Republican Congress, which is at 13.4%, or a straight Democratic Congress, which is at 10.7%. So if your only concern is the market, you want a split Congress. Now, the reason why this is the case, which I don't actually think is great, is because there's usually gridlock and nothing actually happens. If nothing happens and the status quo is a status quo, at least financially, most assume, and what has happened over the last 70 years or so, is that things stay the same. It's more predictable. Companies like predictability. They don't like volatility, don't like unexpected things. They don't like uncertainty. If it's a gridlock, nothing changes. Everything is quote unquote fine, and companies will adjust to whatever that environment is. For example, we know we had the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. Well, companies that lower their taxes, and if that rate stays the same, they operate at whatever that rate is, regardless if it's high, low, or indifferent. It just makes things a lot easier. If it flips to any party, that is now threatened, where taxes could go even lower, which is fine for companies, clearly, or if it goes up, they'll then have to adjust to that, or whatever rules and regulations may be added or taken away. And again, it could benefit companies, it may not benefit companies. It doesn't actually matter. But for all of us, the status quo is usually, not always the case, easiest for us to adjust to. I don't have to learn anything new. I've gotten used to it, whether I like it or not. When it changes, then I have to like put in effort. So based on that, that is why we have the split Congress actually makes you the most money as an investor from now, or really 2019, going all the way back to 1950. But how does this change when the president is different? So we have that data too. And in this scenario, the best case scenario is you have a Democratic president and a Republican Congress. Now, I didn't really cite why that's the case, but on average, going back to 1950, that is up 18.3% on average with a Democratic president and a Republican Congress. Now, this could be because nothing is also going to be changed either. I'm not quite sure. They did not state that in the article, but that's the best case scenario outside of the other flipped scenario. The next best one is a Republican a Republican president and a split Congress, and that gives you 17.9%. So you don't necessarily want one party in control of all 3 branches as an investor. That scenario actually makes the least money in almost every case. Now, here's the good news. In all of these scenarios, regardless of who's the president and how the Congress is split or together or in opposition of each other, all of these numbers are positive. Every last one of them is positive. And that's the encouraging thing. Obviously, you want to go vote. Definitely do that. We voted early. We did some posts on that. But the market over time, as I've always been saying, is likely to rise. We have 70 years of data here that prove that. And the lowest number here is 8.7%. That's it. That's the lowest number. 8.7% is the worst. I'm not going to say it's the worst it can get. You can never predict the future, but we've gone through pandemics before. Maybe not this severe, at least in the last 100 years, but over the last 70 years, we've gone through a lot of things, and the markets over time generally rises. So I wanted to throw that out there. Again, if your only concern is the market, a split Congress is what you want. If you're looking to make even more than that, you would be rooting for a Democratic president and a Republican Congress. How likely is that? I'm not a political analyst, so I ain't gonna go there. But just wanted to give you a little bit more clarity there, because most people are only concerned about who is the president and how is that gonna affect me. You also really wanna pay attention to Congress, and that was some very, very strong data to help paint a picture over the last 7 decades. Lastly, one other thing I thought was really interesting was that 10 out of the last 11 recessions were from Republican presidents. The only exception was Jimmy Carter. It did not explain why that was the case. It could be, well, I wouldn't say coincidence, because 90% not a coincidence. I did think that was interesting because we're in a recession right now. So we'll see what that means and how that plays out. A recession is almost never good, especially in the short term for anybody. But this does prove the case that you want to be consistent. You want to just keep investing, because regardless of how the political dominoes fall, the market over time still goes up. Lastly, before we end, pay attention to how and where you're investing. Tech is probably still going to be a very good bet, but also those consumer goods, consumer staples. One of my favorites, and I don't really get to talk about a lot, is Colgate. That is CL, is that stock symbol. Not a recommendation. You want to check it out and see how it does for you. Test it out. We talk about that in the Investors Toolkit. That stock was actually up today when everything else, almost everything else, was red. That stock was up close to 3%, which shows you how strong it is. Logically, they make toothpaste, mouthwash, stuff like that. Logically, the reason why that's the case is because, like I've been saying, whether you're going to Walmart or Costco, Walgreens, wherever you're going in there to go buy Colgate stuff, because you gotta get toothpaste regardless of what you do, right? No matter pandemic or not, you are buying that stuff. If you're at home, you might be buying it in bulk, especially during cold and flu season. So it could be a very good idea. On paper, it makes a lot of sense. So that's something that you do want to consider. And lastly, before I go, because I almost forgot, thank you for the birthday wishes. I try to respond to as many as possible. Definitely enjoyed my birthday. I appreciate y'all. Took a day off yesterday, at least from the video. So again, I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all. Also, do check out both my courses. Actually, all my courses do have a discount code for 31% off that expires later tonight. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It expires on Monday. Use the code 31birthday, all one word, or the number 31 and birthday, to save 31%. But it does expire on Monday. So if you don't use it by Monday, that's it. It's gone. So please do check that out. Let me know if you have any questions about the video. Make sure you hit the share button, and I'll talk to you guys later.